Hello parents, Dr. Sean Medlin here, Clear Connections Chiropractic. Today we're going to be talking about two massively important things, and the first one is if your kids are irritable, stressed out, if their sleep is just crazy and off kilter. Same kid that you had on this regimented kind of winter and school routine is now just all over the place, and top 3 things on how to balance them out. So today we're going to be addressing those two things. So hang tight, we're going to be going through this real quick. Let's talk about why summer chaos brings these big emotions to our kids. We have a 5-year-old, we know exactly what you're going through. And so let's talk about the science real quick, because a disrupted routine, all of a sudden sleep is down, stimulation, travel, screen time, just all of the external environments, they're up, right? We don't have that routine, and us adults are the same way, right? We mainly focus on our kids because they have these big emotions. We're adults and we crave routine too, and if we get off that routine, something feels wrong, doesn't it? Well, the exact same thing is going on with their kids, but the emotional intelligence isn't quite there, and so all of a sudden it's the big emotions, tears, meltdowns, it's the chaos, right? And especially kids that already have overstimulation, kids that are already dealing with anxiety and ADD, emotional issues, emotional regulation. That's when they're already 1 foot into that chaotic nervous system world and just that disruption of routine, right? And so that's where we are, and you could be struggling, especially as a parent. This is supposed to be a fun summertime, relaxing, like school's done and now we get to just cruise through the summer and really enjoy this Michigan. I mean, this is what we wait for all winter. And if we're in Struggleville, then that's no good. And so what we're boiling this down to is nervous system and nervous system regulation. That's the nerdy part, okay? Because a dysregulated, stressed out nervous system equals fight or flight. We may have heard of the 2 different sides of the nervous system, fight or flight and rest and digest. And when we're all fight or flight, that's when chaos is happening. And so I just wanted to quote a couple research articles that really back this up. And so the autonomic nervous system, which is what nervous system focused, neurologic focused chiropractors deal with, is the autonomic nervous system. And so autonomic nervous system dysregulation is linked with behavioral and emotional challenges, okay? That might be obvious, right? But they've actually done studies that show that autonomic nervous system, especially when we're fight or flight, that's when those behavioral challenges happen. And so children with sensory processing disorders show higher sympathetic nervous system activity under stress. That is massively important, because when we're talking about sensory processing and then all of a sudden there's higher sympathetic activity under stress, we want to measure it. We want to measure it. And so in our office, we use this piece of technology. This is called HRV, heart rate variability, and it allows us to measure stress in their body, in your body as a parent, in their body as a kiddo. And through the adjustment, stimulating the vagus nerve, we allow that nervous system to regulate, go back to that rest and digest mode, right? We call it the brake pedal. That's when they start regulating, and all of a sudden that thing that, you tell them no and they've heard it 100 times, but all of a sudden there's dysregulation and big emotions, they get that back on track. They're able to process their emotions. They're able to really focus and stay with the routine of summer, even though it's a little less routine, but we're able to build that up. And so that brings me into the top 3 natural ways that we're gonna help our kids stay on track. Because again, when we don't have that routine, the science shows that it creates vulnerability and irritability in our nervous system. And so the number 1 thing is movement and play, guys, movement and play. And everything that I'm saying for our kids to help them, it helps us too as adults. Movement and play as adults helps us regulate our nervous system. More so ever with our kids, especially since they're developing and growing, and they have so much going on internally and with their physiology. We have to get them out and moving, and Michigan summer is happening, and so being able to get outside, that's the best. And so we have a 5-year-old, and so we build forts outside. We do obstacle courses. We just do laps around the house. We play with the neighbors' kids, right? All of this kind of stuff. It wears them out, but it does a lot neurologically that allows those stress levels and those fight or flight levels to be switched over to that rest and digest, right? It's not just about blowing off steam, but there's literal science behind how it helps regulate the nervous system. Just playing, getting outside, especially grounding, right? Taking off the shoes, going to the pool, like movement, going to the beach. All of this stuff is so important. All right, the next one is a consistent wind down and sleep pattern. Being able to, I know throughout the day, especially when there's no school, it's harder to keep in a routine, but if we can keep that sleep routine on point, that goes a long way. And so for my little guy, it's a very short routine, but it's very potent. And by the end of our routine, you see him yawning, you see those eyes slowly shutting. And so our routine looks like doing the bathroom stuff, so brushing our teeth, going to the bathroom, and then being able to get in bed, read a book. Then we briefly talk about our wins. We do questions where we talk about what we're curious about, right? So we can do research the next day. And then we wind down and we turn off the lights and we're out, okay? And so being able to do that consistently at a specific time, that's really, really important, because that at least is a bedrock for not just, hey, we're going to bed now, but we have these things that line up that allow us, that nervous system, to down regulate. So that way when we're leaving the room, they're already tired and they're going to bed, okay? The last thing is the chiropractic adjustments. It supports the nervous system. It turns on the vagus nerve. It allows switching back and forth between fight or flight, which is important, right? During certain times when they're playing with their friends, a squirt gun fight and they're running around, we're fight or flight, right? But when we're calming down, or when it's time to go home, right? When it's time to stop playing with our friends, when it's dinner time, that's that rest and digest. That's when we have to switch and we don't need the big emotions, right? And so our little dude, again, I'm using him as all of our examples because we've been in it too, guys. And we know, me and my wife, we're both the chiropractors, especially when it's like transition time and it's time to go home or something like that. And we're seeing these big emotions, crocodile tears, and we're sad, we're angry. I look at my wife and I'm like, have you adjusted him lately? And she's like, nope. And I haven't either. And we know when we are getting the big emotions, we haven't adjusted him in a while in his nervous system. When our kids are having big things, these are signs and symptoms. It's like us adults, if we have back pain or neck pain or headaches or digestion issues, it's our body talking to us. Kids' bodies don't communicate the same way, where instead they're gonna have these big emotions, emotional outbursts, irritability. These are signs and symptoms of a dysregulated nervous system. So again, we measure that through our technology. So we're able to literally measure a stressed out, burnt out nervous system, and then the result of getting adjusted. And sure enough, after we get our little guy adjusted, all of a sudden we're back on track and he's reasonable. And we're able to have these transitions and have a great time and live to our fullest and have just, it's like night and day, guys. And those of you with kids that have been adjusted, you know what I'm talking about. So with that being said, we're gonna wind this video down. Take these 3 things into account. They're very general, but they're 3 things that we can do pretty easily. So again, they're that movement and play and having an itinerary almost for something where, especially if you're going to the next day and your kid's always like, what am I gonna do today? What am I gonna do? Have an itinerary and say, today we're gonna research this, we're gonna learn this, we're gonna learn this new skill, whether it's juggling or riding a bike, we're going to go for a walk, and then they can choose what they're gonna do, just movement and play and having them invested in those options, right? And then that consistent wind down, whatever that looks like. So by the end of it, only has to be 5 to 15 minutes, but they're able to have that proper down regulation before those lights go out. And then the chiropractic adjustment and actually measuring the nervous system. So if that's a missing piece, we're more than happy to answer any questions that you have or invite you into the practice, guys. So reach out to us. Be happy to, again, be a resource for you. My name's Dr. Sean Medlin. Have a great day, guys. Bye.